going on, everybody? Welcome into the Jets Report. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, Sauce Gardner was talking about Aaron Glenn and Aaron Glenn's expectations for the All-Pro corner. Then also ESPN dropped their top 10 running backs in the National Football League heading in the next season, and Breece Hall, who came in at number 2 last year on this list, was actually not in the top 10 whatsoever. So we'll break down both these stories on today's show. But before we do so, if you guys could, hit that subscribe button today. We are back posting daily videos around your New York Jets, so hit that subscribe button if you guys don't want to miss a thing. Training camp just 2 weeks away, so if you guys want to stay up to date on everything on your New York Jets, hit that sub button. And plus, we're still taking on the Packers Report in a little race to 10,000 subscribers. We got a pretty hefty lead right now, but I got faith in Jets fans that we could close that gap. So hit that subscribe button today. Let's dive into it. So Sauce Gardner was talking Aaron Glenn and his expectations for next season. And honestly, these quotes will have you guys absolutely fired up. I feel like Sauce this offseason has had a great mindset with the contract extension talk and just having a whole new regime and whole new, coaching staff here for his 4th year in the National Football League. But that's what Sauce had to say on Aaron Glenn and just his expectations, saying, I know I'm not perfect, but the fact he's trying to get perfection out of me is what I needed because, I've had a lot of success, early success in the league, and the last thing I need is a new regime to come in here and just allow me to be complacent. I'm not saying that's who I am, but it's great to have those types of guys that are going to demand a lot out of me and just push me in ways that I've never been pushed before. And, I've talked about this on the show a couple of times, just, the impact that Aaron Glenn will have on Sauce Gardner, but I think the biggest takeaway I have is whatever Sauce Gardner's ceiling is in the National Football League, Aaron Glenn will help Sauce reach that ceiling, and I think he will. And then, in my opinion, that's being the best cornerback in the league. I think having Steve Wilks, Aaron Glenn, coaching Sauce up this offseason, then throughout the whole regular season, just being in those meeting rooms week in, week out, we should see the best version of Sauce, and I think we could see him revert to the 2023 version of himself. You guys see his stats up on screen. He was first in damn near every major statistical category. Targets, he was first. Yards after catch, first. Coverage snaps per target, tied for first. Longest reception, tied for first. Receptions allowed, second. Passer rating allowed, second. And yards per reception, third. So pretty much top 3 in every major category. And I really do believe this. I think Sauce Gardner was a massive reason why Aaron Glenn took this job. Now, yes, he obviously wanted just a head coaching job, try to change the culture with the New York Jets. I'm sure that played a massive part in it, but I'm sure when he was looking at the Jets roster, the one guy I'm positive he was, very excited to coach, teach up, had to have been Sauce Gardner. Obviously, Aaron Glenn being a former first-round pick at the cornerback position for the New York Jets, he knows what it means to be a New York Jets corner, especially an all-pro caliber corner. So I think Aaron Glenn, what he is going to get out of Sauce, will probably be the biggest, task that he has on his own plate is like, hey, how do I get Sauce back to that 2022, 2023 version of himself compared to the version we saw this past season? And I think he will. I think Sauce will no doubt be a all-pro caliber corner this upcoming year. But you guys fill in the blank for me. Sauce Gardner is the blank best cornerback in the National Football League. I think right now he's 3rd. I think you got to give the nod to Pat Surtain and Derek Stingley. But I think after the end of this season, we could be talking about Sauce being the best cornerback in the league. But as it stands right now, Sauce Gardner is the blank best cornerback in the NFL. All right, so ESPN, they were dropping their top 10 running backs in the NFL heading into the next season, and Breece Hall did not make this list. Now, heading into last year, he was 2nd on this list. A lot of people had some high hopes for him. I did as well. I took Breece Hall, number 6 overall in my fantasy football league. Didn't end up working out, but could he have a bounce back year? But first, let's dive into the top 10 list. So they had Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry coming in at 1 and 2, and that makes a lot of sense. They both had unreal years for their organizations. Then they had Jahmyr Gibbs actually edging out Bijan Robinson. I agree with that. I think Gibbs is the 3rd best running back in the league, and honestly, at the end of this season, I think we'll be talking about Gibbs being the top dog at the running back position in the NFL. But then you go Bijan, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Joe Mixon, and Alvin Kamara. One guy that I'm actually shocked wasn't on this list was Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought maybe he should be ahead of their, Cook, Mixon, or Kamara, but it's a different conversation for a different day. But in terms of Breece Hall, now obviously this past season was not his best year. The Jets just really struggled to run the football. He couldn't really get going. And was that a combination of injuries on the offensive line, the philosophy, just the whole scheme for this Jets offense wasn't built through the run at all this past season. It was Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson, especially when Devontae Adams came into town. That's all the Jets leaned into. They had no kind of emphasis on the run game, but I think that should change this upcoming year. But this is what ESPN had to say on Breece, saying Hall was second behind only 49ers Christian McCaffrey on last year's list, but took a step back in rushing yards, 876, catches 57, and touchdowns 8, as the Aaron Rodgers-led Jets offense failed to ignite. Hall, 24 years old, could potentially be in for a better season in 2025 through new head coach Aaron Glenn, appears poised to employ a committee approach. Now, I agree with ESPN. Breece Hall shouldn't be on the top 10 list, but he has a great chance to be back there. Now, I think the biggest question with Breece Hall, because I do think the Jets will be a successful rushing offense this year with the newly improved offensive line, with just the whole different culture that the Jets are going to have, where it's like, yeah, we're going to lean on our defense, we're going to lean on the run game, but the question is with Breece is how many carries is he going to get? Because I could see Aaron Glenn and offensive coordinator Tanner Engstrad being like, nah, this is going to be a 50-50 approach to this backfield where half the carries go to Breece, half the carries go to Braylon Allen, and then we go from there. But if Breece does somehow get to 200-plus carries, 250 carries on the season, he should go for over 1,000 yards. And, we look at his stats over the last 3 seasons throughout his career. Obviously, in very limited action during his rookie campaign, he was still averaging 5.8 yards per clip. We saw that breakout in 2023 where he had 223 carries, go for just under 1,000 yards, averaging 4.5 yards per carry. And, this past season, it's not like he was, terrible running the football. Again, I think most of that was just the Jets' offensive scheme. The personnel wasn't the best, but he's still able to average 4.2 yards per clip. And with the offensive line now improved for the Jets, with Membu being taken in the top 10, you got Olu Fashanu back. Hopefully you stay healthy at the interior. This should be a successful rushing offense. And plus, you take the icing on the cake of having a dual-threat quarterback in Justin Fields, just those edge rushers, those linebackers. They at least got to give Fields some respect, and maybe they can't all close in on Breece Hall. But if these 5 have a good year, which I will say PFF also dropped the top 10 offensive lines in the league heading into next season. We'll probably do a full video on that. Actually did have the Jets coming in at 9th, which I was pleasantly surprised with. I agree with that ranking. I think they could be a top 10 unit. Again, it comes down to health, especially on the interior with Simpson, Tippmann, and Vera Tucker. But I'm going to call my shot. I think Breece Hall will have his career best year this next season. Now, will that be him rushing for 1,300 yards? I would probably say no, since it will be more of a running back by committee approach for the New York Jets. But I could see him getting 225 carries. Maybe they go for 1,050 yards. He finds the end zone 10 times or something around those numbers, or that would be a career best year for Breece Hall. I'll tell you what, I'm ready to get hurt again. I'm probably going to take this guy in fantasy football. Again, I'll be scared for the more running back by committee approach, but I'm just going to have some faith in just overall talent that Breece Hall is. And honestly, I think even Braylon Allen should have a successful year. You look at the Lions with Gibbs and Montgomery, both those guys almost eclipsing, Gibbs did eclipse 1,000 yards, but Montgomery was right there. If he doesn't get hurt, they probably have 2,000 yards rushers. Now, will the Jets be able to replicate that? I doubt that. If they do, we're talking about the Jets being a wild card team this next season. But I'm excited to see what Breece Hall is going to give. And we'll see if he's going to be able to go over 1,100, 1,200 yards. I think we'll be right in between 1,000 to 1,100. But let's show Breece Hall some love on today's show. Type those 20s. Type his jersey number down below in the comment section. Also, friendly reminder, hit that subscribe button on the way out. We will see you guys next time. And thank you so much for watching today's show. As always, go Jets.